Welcome in. Glad you're here. Hope you can see right on the screen. It's there. D-Boy Wet WCU Cash App Daniel Abril. It's good. I'm glad you guys are here for another episode, as we have been definitely diving in. Excuse me, bumping the table a little bit. Diving in. And what I really want you to know, this space and place is really for them who are learning, but really when you come in a place of knowing, experiencing, been through this maybe multiple times, and been awakened for maybe even periods of times and even lengthy periods of times, or maybe even years ago, or even if you, through your process, you recognize things. And the key, I'm going to tell you what in this, the key is recognition. Recognition is a key to the inner world of the threshold of doors to open up amongst yourself, to go to different spaces and visit as you peel back the inner onion of false sense of self, the in-depth programming being done within the system, and these layers that make you feel like you're really separated, but you really start, those who know have kind of came to this place to know something about this isn't right, it doesn't seem fair, and it doesn't seem real. And through this process of that, this is a place where you can come, feel safe. For me, and it's for me, getting rid of religion, something in the past for me. I really try to talk about, I don't think I'm deep. This isn't about ego or I'm better than you or anybody's better than anybody. This is just a factual experience you've had within you that you're experiencing, and you start recognizing, and you're okay with not having to do some of the things maybe even when you first are awakened that you would do, because remnants of belief systems and systems that were put in you religiously, politically, are still trying to hang on into spaces and places within you. Oh yeah. And that so you could realize that you really started evacuating them, turning the tables on them, if I may use that term, flipping the tables in your temple, in your own temple, flipping the table because it was inverted within you, and you're starting to recognize it's not about ego, it's not about being better, it just is, and you start being okay that you're starting to really understand that you're not seeking for another level, you're not seeking for another antidote, you're not seeking for another ascension, you're not seeking for another guru, you're not seeking for something, another teaching, you're not seeking for something else that's there that you feel that you're lacking because you're still trying to accomplish or grab something that still would make you complete, or would be the thing that would upgrade yourself. That you've actually hit the place, and the space is actually called a stage, eighth stage. There's 8 stages in the stage, called Sophia Consciousness. And I've been reiterating it into the space and place recently of, this is what I'm saying in many different ways, trying to align something that connects to the something next. That if you have any of these 8 stages, I'm not going through the 8 stages at this time, I'm going to hit something in the stages, peak interest, peak performance, of now you're just accepting that you're no longer seeking that which is lost because you found it. And what do you do when you find it is the key element into the activity of not trying to be something, and you start just being the something that you thought you were acquiring or trying to find. Or some might even say you are what you seek. I believe maybe Rumi said that, or other people have said this in the past. You are what you seek. And when you find that you are what you seek, you no longer look for it. But it comes with a very huge key I mentioned from the beginning, and this is what we're going to get into today. Today's video is something that kind of hit me when I was watching Esoteric Jesus on YouTube. And it hit me. It's a space between thoughts and the gaps between breaths. And then I put with it, this is the phrase I use is really what was the key, and then I kind of outlined it with the inner silence. And we're going to go into that. I'm going to share a screen, but I'm going to use that screen somewhat, right? I'm going to use that screen somewhat about the inner silence. But also it has a connection to the stage of Sophia, but I'm going to take it out of a little bit and actually put some more sprinkles on it, or a little bit, add some flavor to what we're going to read. That goes to me certain levels, and then I'm going to add the sprinkles that may even give you a little bit more on a fullness of level that I comprehend and see in the space. And it was like coming to this is not allow me to have to go convert people, or I have to tell them the truth. This is part of the space. Because you really can't make people do or believe or come to something if they are not able to hear it or see it or experience it, or not ready to hear. Because what they'll do was, just like an old, one of the old narratives of a story in the New Testament was, don't cast your pearls before the swine. And really what it's saying, don't cast your pearls. You're the pearl of great price. Your wisdom, your experience, the layering, the work that's been done on you, the recognition that's been awakened with you, that small part of you that's being taken back so you can have the greater part of the connection of who you are connected, that huge one, that huge soul that has aspects of some individuation, but also has aspects of, it can speak into the creative consciousness and start apprehending it into a unity by not even being just like the have you ever heard about the 100 monkeys? They taught in the story, actually it's a scientific experiment. They went to an island and taught monkeys how to use tools, right? The monkeys started learning. Then they revisited another island within 100 miles away, and guess what? They put the tools down and didn't teach them, and the monkeys started and knew it. Why? Because within the collective, even in this frequency with the monkeys, who are the closest ones to having these, right, in the natural physical, they had connected with the frequency of the nature of the other monkeys and had the ability to learn what the other monkeys had learned. Almost like a telepathic reunion expression within them, to put that in the quantum or in the field, and the other monkeys grabbed it like finding some bananas from a tree. Hence, what am I saying? This is a knowing, a yearning that you can't teach. You're not going to necessarily learn, you're not going to learn it from a book of logic or a book of history or anything like this. This is something that is deeper and connective within you. You're not learning, you're remembering. One more time. You're not learning, you're remembering. You're remembering the space of consciousness, aka called the pleroma, that you're connected to before there was a dualistic plane. Before there was evil and good, and black and white and blue. Think about it. How can I tell a blind man about the color blue? Think about that. I'm talking, now take this allegorical, and if I tell somebody something that that has not been awakened in them, they can't receive it. What was the story? I just kind of go with the other story about casting your pearls before the swine. What does the swine do to the pearls? The swine is a beast mentality of the unclean thing called the beast or a pig in the story, right? And the pig will trample under it, meaning the lower conscious, the animal consciousness, the lack of consciousness and understanding of the lower realm wasn't awakened within the very thing that you shared with them, which was the pearl of great price about you, trying to give them messages and understanding to try to do something, try to, that old, still holding that old preachy preach. And what I mean by that, trying to save people, because it was indoctrinated into many of us in the West, right? It was. Not saying you ever can get a word, but there's a time to know what I'm going to talk about today and why. What this is about. The space between thoughts and the gasps of air. The inner silence that speaks from a state, because a lot of times us as people are looking at the outer silence of that which is outside of us, but this is really going to the in-depth of learning to silence the inner self and then hitting that space of you're no longer seeking, but you are knowing that I am. And I won't say the rest of that because I really, for me, the G-O-D means a lot and has been hijacked a lot. Because a lot of these lower beings are calling themselves or have been gods. But that's not the state of the monad or pleroma, which is way above them. That's why in the state, which I dig with Gnosticism, is you had a lower architect make a physical creation in the story, right? And then say, I'm the only one, not recognizing, because he doesn't have the key to the recognition that there's states way, way above the material world. So let me share and let's get into this. I got some to share. Let's go. So I put in here from the beginning the space between thoughts and grass, between breaths, and I call it the Sophia stage. A phase refers to the state of psychological spiritual maturity where an individual moves beyond the reactive living and enters in a space of integrated, and here's the key, integrated wisdom. Integrated with the dualistic of both sides of us wisdom, meaning, and this wisdom is the maturity. It's the gray beard in other stories. It's the feminine jewels in other stories. It's the wisdom above that's integrated wisdom, just not a lower realm of wisdom, wisedom, right? But this is being integrated to make them one. This is, call it the feminine and masculine, call it the intuition or the feminine aspect. This is actually the Sophia wisdom, where you quit seeking something because you recognize you found it. And when you find it, it doesn't bring you peace immediately because you see the place you live in and the real world around you that you realize isn't what you thought it was and how jacked up it is. But the next level is when you come to the recognition is greatness, realization of that you're something above even what you thought you were before you found this out, right? You're connected to the all. Carl Jung definitely got into this in his psychology. The gap between mental activities, but I'm going to even put this more, I'm going to go with this within, because I'm seeing even above the mind, this is even a thing of consciousness, just not the mind. In Jungian psychology, Sophia, feminine aspect, which means wisdom, is the fourth and most mature phase of the anima, the feminine principle, the inner feminine principle. Integrated represents a shift projecting fantasies or ideals onto others towards embodying wisdom directly. This is the key. Not outside of yourself playing a game, because you do wake up, and I've did it myself too, trying to actually tell people stuff that when they really were only in the third grade and trying to give them maybe high school geometry, and they were having a hard time with they were having a hard time with their times tables. And I'm talking consciously, talking their mindset, not really helping them. Actually, this is why you would be giving the pearl to the swine. Remember the focus on what the pearl is coming out of the oyster, and what the pearl goes through is you. You're the pearl of the great price. You're the pearl in the story. There's even a song, and there's even this hymn in the Gnostic Gospels of, I think, the Acts of Thomas. It's called the Hymn of the Pearl. Inner authority. Notice it's a shift from projecting fantasies or ideals onto others towards embodying wisdom directly. It's trying to play an outside game with the inward knowing. And this is the stage where you flip who you are. This is a stage where you give up a lot of this fantasies, right, or ideas of this outward world, or this outward ideas mingled with your seed or your spiritual consciousness. This is direct connection of the inner thinking or thoughts. Inner authority. At this stage, you stop seeking external validation and operate from an eternal source of truth. You're not looking for the validation of shit outside of you. No external. You're not seeking external validation. Quit seeking. You really, this is a break to the higher states where your awareness, you're not seeking another teaching, you're not seeking another guru, you're not trying to find something, and it's not a self-righteousness. This is where you know that you all know, and start knowing who you are without any explanation or validation outside of you to sign off on you. They have no idea, right? The next thing is sovereignty for those identified as empaths. The strange marks a transition from being overwhelmed by the world's emotions to having clear, unmanipulable boundaries. This is where you start dividing the outer. You start understanding there is no division, but there is a division of where your source lies, and why you don't need a validation outside of you. This is when you really know. This is why discernment, I was recently bringing up discernment in the three, which I believe comes not out yet when I'm making this. The discernment is so important because you can identify them who just seem to be telling the truth, but you're starting to discern them. They really got an outside bag going on. They are faking the funk, even though a lot of people think they're real and they think they're the real deal, but there's pattern recognition. See, recognition is a key that I realized opened up when I knew that I was really new and understood this process that was working in me. It started just manifesting in me. It started being a realization in me. My started to realize that this aspect of myself, tearing away layers of myself that was false and dividing me from myself, was being taken away. And I started realizing that I no longer sought, and I wasn't seeking to find. When you find, you quit seeking. You quit looking for another teaching. You quit looking for another thing. You actually start being that which you sought. You start being that. Here's the space. Another thing. It is a space of gap. Central concepts is mindfulness, right? And meditation, often called madhya in Sanskrit, is a tiny pauses between inhale and exhale, or between thought and the next. This is awareness that I'm going to add to it. You're experiencing the awareness that you have the capabilities to find the gap between, in these mindful gaps that it's calling it, between the inhale and the exhale, and between the thought and the next thought, is really what what is said in the next. This is a portal to the presence, and the stillness considered the doorway to the divine self or Sophia realm, where the constant doing of the mind stops and you pure being. Being begins, or the being before the being, which I have been going over for 2 months, is all this is connected to what I was saying. You're breaking bad. And when I mean bad, I don't mean bad as you've been indoctrinated. You're breaking that fantasy world we spoke of earlier, and you're actually seeing the connection of you in the higher consciousness, where now you recognize it's you are that deeper sense of self, that energetic, that body embodiment of light that you are, even with an understanding that that which you look in the physical mirror is just the external you, but the inhabitation of you is within that body. The portal presence, he called it. This stillness is considered a doorway to self, or I just read. This is where the being begins. I'll say you start recognizing, there's that recognition again, the being before, the being that you are. And here's the breaking the loop. Here we go, that breaking the loop, the simulation theories. The computer programs is now where you start focusing. Breaking the loop by focusing on this space. This space, the thought between the thought, the breath between the breath, is the eternal realm of yourself that you're now experiencing just in these spaces, where you may even come to the consciousness and realize the completeness of the space of the higher realms of the pleroma, or your consciousness of those spaces that you experience now. Allowing for a conscious response rather than a reflexive gasp or thought. Not the gasp of air, but that which is the eternity in between the gasp or the thought, and I'll say even both. Together, the space between the thoughts and gasps between the breaths describes a quiet clarity required to reach the Sophia stage, where you're no longer grasping for air, seeking survival mode, validation, but are resting in the vast stillness of your own realized wisdom, of the higher states of wisdom that you are in, even above these gods. You're an emanation, hence whence they came from. They're just remnants of that. They're just the emanations of that part, of fractured parts of that. No. I'm going to ask what's this called in Buddhism. That's what I'm asking. What do we call this in Buddhism? If there's a name or a practice for it. If there's something. In Buddhism, this concept either is Dasogshin Mahamudra. This concept's referring as to gap, or the interval between, which intervals between, is a moment where conceptual thinking stops and the true nature of the mind, the unconditioned space, can be directly experienced. Very, very interesting. Makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing with this stage. This is the stage of what I have been showing you when you go into the temple, right? In the book of Revelations, and don't come out no more, and you get a new name written with stone, and you're the pillar of the temple, and the pillar stone. So your name is connected to the pillar of stone you are, which this pillar of stone represents the foundation that holds up everything, or the building, right? Or the temple, so you can be erect. So it can be erect. Here, I'm just trying to do something and it keeps. Well, anyways, yeah, I got this thing in front of me that I see my space. That's when I move my thing away, then when I go to X out, it doesn't let me X out. Let me do this. Just forget about it. But anyways, this is very powerful. Very powerful. This is an experience. This, and I'm going to be honest, not everybody's here. Anybody, a lot of people who hear this may not be experiencing this at all. This is the experience of them who are experiencing another stage of who they are, what they are, and the truth that they are, the inner awakening. That's why it said the kingdom of God's within, and people go, oh, I did it, it's within, look. But not recognizing this is the building to unveil yourself within. That's why the foundation of this within has everything you need. That's the equipment. That's where the equiption goes on. That's where you're equipped with everything. That's where your building is everything. That's where all your tools are. But when we get caught up in our outside looking and seeing even the world, I'm telling you, there's ham hocking going on if you're looking at the ham hockers. Now, it's okay to get in some things and look at it, to decode it, and then it's like this. Watch the show, but don't get emotionally involved on any part of it. But get the Easter eggs they're leaving, because there's Easter eggs of truth for the decode, and take them and decode them. But once you get emotionally involved in the story that they're setting outside of you, politically, the world, the script, they're pushing agendas, right? Know the agendas, but don't get emotionally connected to them. Because once you get emotionally connected, you're now in the play. You now are in the play. You now are in the script. A lot of the things with us reading even these scriptures, because the scriptures are scripts. It's in the word. Script, church, scripts is to decode them. So you know the play. And when you know the play, you just watch and see. Then you can even start saying and knowing your knowledge in occultism, your knowledge of how this works, that you start seeing, oh, that's a hermit. Oh, that's the Joker. Oh, yeah, he's the Joker. That's the protagonist. Oh, who's that over there? That's the antagonist in the play. What's that they're showing you? Oh, they're showing you this is going on with this, and this is going on with this. And you go, wow. But observe, because once you pick sides, you're in the movie. You're in the play. You're in the world. When you really need, this is where the difference of being in and the wisdom of Sophia not being of. Meaning, it's okay to go get a job, make some money, take part in some of the systems. But no, it's not your origination, and you aren't that. Because you ain't from that. You're just using it for what you need to use it for, like a glass. But you know it's not your home. You know it's a system. And notice systems are everywhere. Systems even bring us together. Systems do, but there's also a sewer system. We're all shit gatherers and piss. They're being real. And that's also a system. Now, this was about the recognition, I keep saying is the key, to knowing who you are. And if you went through these stages and you feel it and you experience it now, you're in the stage of that very oneness. You're no longer seeking, you are. You're no longer looking, you are being. You no longer are trying to find it. You found it in its past tense. Now you're embodying it and being it. Because you know why? Because you remember. You didn't learn. We're not here to learn in the spiritualism. We're here to remember the light we were before we got here. We're remembering all things. And those who are starting to remember, there's something about the connection that you've had through this process of many lifetimes of the amnesia. But the amnesia is being reversed engineered, where you're seeing things as they are. What if I told you you're even watching the Watchers? You guys have a great day. We'll be back with some more great videos. Just had to go with this. Told you before I got to inversion and diversion, something else was coming. Well, it came. You guys have a great day.